everybody. Today we're debating whether or not veganism is a moral obligation, and we're starting right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here for another epic debate, as today we are having a classic philosophy debate and also a contemporary and important issue, perhaps one of the more important issues of our day. And want to let you know though, regardless of what side of this issue you are on, we want you to feel welcome. We are a non-partisan channel, which means we want you to feel welcome whether you come from the vegan side, the non-vegan side, atheist, Christian, Democrat, Republican, you name it. We hope you feel welcome. And if you enjoy debates, consider hitting that subscribe button, as we have many more debates coming up. So for example, you'll see at the bottom right of your screen, tomorrow night, temporarily, Destiny and Vosh will be setting aside their differences for this unique circumstance where they will be debating against two nationalists, James Alsop and Eric Stryker, on the topic of race and police brutality. So, with that, want to let you know, for tonight's debate, it's going to be a fairly flexible kind of format where basically each side is going to have a roughly 10 to 12 minute opening statement that they can divide up in whatever way they'd like, followed by open conversation for about an hour and then 30 minutes of Q&A. If you have a question, feel free to fire that question into the old live chat. If you tag me with @ModernDayDebate, it makes it easier for me to get every question in that Q&A list. Also, Super Chat is an option. So if you use Super Chat, it will not only bump your question to the top of the list, but whether it be a question or comment, you can make a friendly, you could say, comment or question toward the speakers. They, of course, would get a chance to respond to. And with that, we are going to move into this debate. Want to say right up front, very excited. I've linked all of the speakers in this description box for this debate. So that way, if you're listening and you're like, I like that, you can hear plenty more by clicking on their links below. And just want to give a huge welcome, as we really do appreciate all of our debaters here. They're the lifeblood of the channel. They make it as fun as it is. And so first, I want to say, for the first time, we have Anna and Brian. Really just thrilled to have you guys here. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Also, their channel is called Those Annoying Vegans in the description. But Anna and Brian, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And like I said, their channel is they have a good sense of humor, a self-deprecating sense of humor, titled Those Annoying Vegans. And so check it out. I think you'll be charmed, folks. And want to say, we welcome Smokey and Godless Girl back, as we've had them before, and we are thrilled to have them back again. So thanks so much, both Smokey and Godless Girl, for being here.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. And with that, we will kick it into debate mode. So, as I had said, opening statements of roughly 12 minutes. And given that, I think it would be safe to say that if we are discussing whether or not veganism is a moral obligation, Anna and Brian, are you guys good with starting us off tonight?
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks so much. The floor is all yours.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having us. As you all know, we are Those Annoying Vegans, also known as Anna and Brian. We are vegan activists. And I guess what we wanted to start with was something we've realized lately is that many people don't seem to understand what veganism is. People think it's a diet, for example. You know, we hear that a lot, a vegan diet, but no one to this day has ever been able to tell us what a vegan diet is. And that's because veganism is an ethical lifestyle. It's not a diet. It's the lifestyle that seeks to exclude animal exploitation as far as what is possible and practicable. And that has components that extend beyond what we eat. Veganism is the belief that animal use for food, clothing, entertainment, laboratory testing, or any other purpose is wrong. And so arguing for veganism is essentially arguing for animal rights. Now, we're aware that ethics and morality are complex topics and they can be difficult to define. But when dealing with morality, we're generally talking about maximizing well-being minimizing pain and suffering, striving for fairness and equality, freedom, choice, etc. Effectively, the golden rule: do unto others as you would have done unto you. Now, when it comes to the food we eat, even though we're not going to be speaking specifically about health because we are, vegan for the animals, just to touch on it briefly, there is not a single nutrient found in animal flesh or the stuff that comes out of their bodies that cannot be found in non-animal sources. So it is not an unreasonable statement to say that animal products are unnecessary for human health, which means we choose to eat them. It also means we choose to enslave and exploit and mutilate and rape and murder animals needlessly for temporary taste pleasure. Now, discriminating based on species is just as arbitrary as discriminating based on race, gender, sexual preference, or any other trivial reasons we discriminate against one another.
Yes, and a significant trait to consider would be the trait of sentience. So to be sentient means to have a subjective experience of life. We value our lives. We want to keep living them. We experience love, pain, joy, sadness, curiosity, fear, anxiety, and sorrow. Every single one of us perceives the world around us in our own unique way. And non-human animals, they're sentient too. The Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness was drafted in 2012 by a prominent international group of cognitive neuroscientists. And they concluded that humans are not unique in possessing the neurological substrates that generate consciousness. So non-human animals, including all mammals and all birds, which are the animals that people eat, and many other creatures, including octopuses, they too possess these neurological substrates. And this, I think, is obvious to anyone who's ever lived with a non-human animal or even spent time with them at length. Non-human animals have personalities, they have preferences, they communicate with us, and they too have a subjective experience of life. So since we value sentience in the human context, in order to be morally consistent, we must also value it in the non-human context. And so if it is morally wrong to needlessly take the life of a human animal, it is also morally wrong to needlessly take the life of a non-human animal. And that's basically what speciesism seeks to combat. For those that aren't familiar with the term, it's called speciesism. This is the discrimination of certain animals based purely on species. And there really is no consistent metric by which we employ speciesism. We are the oppressors, and we simply pick and choose which animals we love and which animals we exploit and murder. So in the United States, for example, we murder pigs by the millions. We rape cows to keep them constantly pregnant and producing breast milk. And we kill baby male chickens on their first day of life, simply because they don't lay eggs. And they're considered a waste product by the egg industry. Yet we do treat dogs and cats and dolphins and bald eagles very differently. And different cultures pick and choose different species that they want to love or exploit. Now, people tend to look at non-human animals through their eyes and not the animals. But when we're dealing with issues of justice, we must always examine the situation through the eyes of the victim. And the food choices that we make have consequences. They're mostly unseen consequences, which is how the animal ag industry wants it. If the general public knew, for example, that sentient beings with the cognition of a 3-year-old human being are regularly gassed to death just so that we can eat 2 strips of bacon, if they knew that, and if they witnessed it firsthand, they would probably change their buying habits, which is why slaughterhouses will most likely never give you a free tour of their facility. And so we are causing needless suffering, needless death, for mere minutes of sensory pleasure. And we, alongside so many others, want this to end. We are the only ones with the power to do anything about it. And so we have the responsibility to do something.
You got it. Thanks so much, Anna and Brian. Really appreciate that opening. And now we will kick it over to Smokey and Godless Girl for their case on answering no to the question being debated tonight. The floor is all yours.
Beautiful. Thank you. I think Godless says she doesn't really have an opening, right, Godless?
Right.
Okay, yeah, so I'll go into mine. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, James. Thank you, everyone in the audience. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Anna, Brian, thank you so much. You people are incredibly sweet and kind. Thank you for being here, and thank you for engaging in this debate with us. To me, this is a competition of culture. Two cultures that both evolved alongside each other and now stand in strong opposition, both claiming ethical and practical stances for their worldviews. But when applied to scrutiny, is veganism even tenable as more than a religious urbanite lifestyle? The answer is, of course, no. And I find vegans regularly avoiding addressing some of the potentially severe ramifications of their desire to impose their lifestyle on all of us as a mainstream cultural norm. Let's explore briefly a few of my core issues with the modern veganism movement as I see it. Number one, vegans attempt to use factory farming as a justification to eliminate all animal products. Not all farms are factory farms, and not all factory farms are cruel to their animals. Today's standards of animal care have been raised to levels unprecedented in any other culture or time in history. Yet, I would even agree that perhaps that is not enough. We do still have large mass producing factory farms that engage in treatment that many would call cruel, but that is a product of our culture, and one that the vegans time and again fail to address. We have factory farms because of the push of cultural dynamics. We wanted cheaper meat. We didn't want animals in close proximity to urban centers where diseases could be spread. We invented sustainable freezing methods, and we lost a valuable relationship with the meat that was serving as our sustenance as we near eliminated the existence of small local family farms through fierce regulation and being snuffed out in competition by the large meatpacking industry that was allowed to grow naturally and unchecked for decades, providing a product at a cheaper cost that killed the smaller industry. This was only catalyzed by government enforcement by the FDA, which rushed to focus to the safety of the product with near zero regard for the treatment of the animals that very well provided the product, and a steady increase in demand that pushed priority of production over standards of treatment. Number two, vegans don't seem to have any actual ethical environmental concerns. Granted, vegans are quick to virtue signal that they care about life and the treatment of animals, yet seemingly don't realize they are simultaneously calling for the genocide and eradication of entire species. Animals in factory farms are no doubt the product of a very genetically watered down stock, selectively bred for its growth, size, and short longevity. These are not animals bred with the potential of a long life, let alone one that could possibly sustain without the support of humans. These animals have essentially evolved alongside us. Can you picture a cow, sheep, chicken, farm pig, or farm goat being able to survive in the wild? Sheep are so stupid, they will follow each other off a cliff if the shepherd isn't watching and can drown in an inch of water. Cancel hunting in the Midwest, and all the deer will go extinct in a couple generations. Not to mention, who knows how many other wild species might be affected by the sudden lack of pasture and farm animals that may also have evolved alongside and rely upon the domesticated stock. Has any vegan ever even supplied an environmental impact report to support their stances on policy and enforcement? I have yet to see one. Truthfully, I would like to think that if vegans had an actual functional moral compass, they would push for improved treatment of animals and the cultural resurgence of local family farms, which naturally tend to give their animals a higher standard of care and aren't held to a production standard that catalyze justification for cruel treatment. With less demand for factory farm products, we could see a cultural shift to once again value the quality of the treatment of animals that produce our meat and bring back local butcher shops that only stock local fresh products. Vegans could buy products only from these types of producers. They could use capitalism to help them sway culture in their direction of ethics and help the farms that are trying to do right by their animals. But no, they want it all to be eliminated and all animal products to be canceled and potentially mass genocide of millions of animals supposedly in the name of ethics. This now brings me to the final point of my opening argument, which of course economical. Vegans seem to suffer from very shallow tunnel vision when they consider potential economic ramifications of their policy pushes. There are more to consider than I have time to mention, so let me focus on a big one, which is the issue of an economic vacuum. A standard truth of humanity is that when a lucrative business is outlawed, a black market always tends to rush in to fill the vacancy. Would animal suffering decrease? Sure, but at the cost of the mass slaughter of millions of animals and potentially the insurgence of a black market meat industry where the treatment of animals would likely verge on monstrous, at levels no modern factory farm could get away with under current regulations. One practical example is the exotic pet trade. Because it is outlawed in many countries, a very profitable very profitable, very lucrative black market has risen up that can make millions off overpriced, illegal stock that fills their pockets with profit while they hide the animals they are trading from authorities and severely disregard their treatment in the process. Vegans just don't seem to connect these dots. Even if you got your way and we completely culled all the farm stock to satiate your ethics, there is no saying you won't open the door to just a smaller population of animals being treated worse than anything we have in the meat industry today. By the way, you might conquer a big hurdle with lots of people if you could finally find a way to make vegan food actually appetizing to the general public. For wanting to push us all into a radically different lifestyle, you should at least try to create some variety that actually tastes good and doesn't require a high diet of soy and the insurgence of estrogen to the body that it provides. And with that, I yield.
So can I open it up so I didn't have an opening statement?
If you would like, you can add. You've got a bit of time left.
Okay, well, no, I was just gonna like start.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Starting the
discussion.
conversation.
What's your definition of veganism?
Veganism is
According to
according to the Vegan Society, it's living a lifestyle that seeks to exclude the exploitation of animals as far as what's possible and practicable.
Okay, so it's not gonna include like eating things like roadkill and stuff. Like if I eat some eggs on a free-range farm, you don't have a problem with that?
Well, where did the egg-laying chicken come from?
Like if the eggs are just gonna get thrown away anyway.
But where did the egg lay? Like if you have like you're effectively arguing like for a backyard hen or something to that effect.
Yeah, like if the eggs are just gonna get thrown away otherwise, then what's the problem with me eating it? Because that's not contributing to animal suffering, right?
we can so with eggs and egg laying and that whole thing, that's a whole thing we can get into. I mean, for one, where did those chickens come from? Were they
Well, how is that relevant?
Hold on
if,
one sec. Just
if
to
the
be sure
eggs are going to get,
just
if
to be
it's
sure
not
that we
going to
do hear
contribute
the,
to
just to
them
be sure that we hear the rest.
Go ahead.
Oh, I wasn't sure if you
I
were.
just don't see-
I
I
wasn't
just
sure
don't
if
see
you
how
were
it's
done
relevant.
yet, Anna. Sorry about that. I don't. Maybe I interjected too
Can
soon.
I ask a question?
Hold on. No, hold on one second. Just want to be sure that you were done, Anna. I wasn't sure. Maybe I jumped the gun too early.
No, it's okay.
I don't see how where the chickens came from
Godless
is
girl.
relevant.
1 second.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And you too, Smokey. Okay, so you weren't done. Just want to be sure.
Okay. Let me put it in a nutshell. Let's pretend the chickens came from someone rescued them from a bad situation, or someone went to a shelter and rescued the chickens. What do they do with the eggs? What most sanctuaries do is they feed the eggs back to the chickens, because many of these chickens, the chickens of today are not like the forest fowl, the wild chickens. They were bred to lay an egg pretty much every day, which is not natural. What is natural is 1 to 2 eggs a month, kind of like us. And so what happens is sanctuaries feed the eggs back to the chickens to replenish the calcium and iron that they lost in laying them in the first place. It's a very intensive process. Sometimes it looks like, they're giving birth. We have 2 hens, and one of them was raised for egg laying. And the
What do
other
you guys
thing
do
is
with the
trying
eggs?
to get away.
Hold on.
The last thing is that we're trying to get away from viewing them as a commodity, as something something that we can take from them. We have dogs and cats and rabbits, and we don't take anything from them.
What
Look,
do you do with
I don't
your
think you
eggs?
understood what I was
What
getting
do you
at.
do with your eggs?
We feed
They're
them
saying
back.
they feed them to the chickens.
Well, isn't that kind of, ethically wrong in your worldview? Or because you were just kind of saying like the sanctuaries do it and that's kind of like a bad thing?
No, it's a natural behavior for chickens to eat their own eggs, to replenish the calcium and iron.
But you eating eggs is unethical.
We don't eat their eggs because.
But is it unethical for you to eat their eggs?
Yeah, because we would be seeing them as.
But it's ethical for them to cannibalize their eggs? I'm having a hard time with this.
Well, that's
Well,
what
the eggs are theirs.
they do that in nature. Like, in fact, it's such a common behavior that you can Google it, and there's a wiki on how to prevent chickens from eating their own eggs. And one of the solutions is to cull them, because to the animal ag industry, it's considered an annoying behavior. but it is a natural behavior, and so we just give them the eggs back.
Yeah. And
we're getting off the point of what I was trying to make. Say the chickens died, so there's no chickens to feed the eggs to. Do you care if I eat the eggs then?
You're saying if a hen were to lay an egg and then immediately die?
Yeah. Like things with like issue, like roadkill, or I'm about to throw away this plate of meat, right? That I'm not. Somebody's throwing away a plate of meat, so no animal is. It's not. You're not contributing to any animal suffering by eating it. But then your other option is eat this leftover meat that's going to be thrown in the garbage, or eat an avocado where the avocado is coming from Mexico, where there's Mexican cartels, right? They call it green gold in Mexico. There's Mexican cartels going around killing and torturing people for they're buying rights to all the lands and farmers' lands, water rights in Mexico to give water to these avocados, and the Mexican farmers are like losing. They're like, it's just losing all the water, so they can't irrigate their own crops, and it's just causing mass amounts of suffering. So would you eat the meat, which isn't going to contribute to any amount of suffering, it's just going to be thrown in the garbage otherwise, or would you contribute to suffering by eating the avocado?
So there's two different points here. Just with the avocado, I don't think vegans are the only people who eat avocados. We're a very small percentage of the world.
Hold on one second. Let's hear them out.
You heard my question, though. I'm just looking for an answer to my question.
You're bringing up a fringe example, like eating an animal that has been hit by a car on the freeway, right? We could formulate all sorts of scenarios in which, for example, theft or murder would be considered moral in this particular niche fringe example. But the vast majority of meat eating is not eating roadkill. So it's kind of a moot point to even talk about. I mean, you're not causing suffering by eating a dead corpse.
I'm asking you what your preference would be in this case. Eat the plate of meat that's being thrown away otherwise and isn't contributing to any suffering, or buy and eat the avocado, which is contributing to suffering. Which would you prefer?
Well, but the plate of meat came from somewhere. It was supplied by a demand. I mean,
But it's being it would be supplied by a demand whether or not it was being thrown in the garbage. Even if it ends up in the garbage or ends up in a vegan's stomach, it's going to be the same case. So that's irrelevant, right? I'm asking you in this particular case, please don't evade the question. In this particular case, would you prefer the person to eat the meat that's otherwise going to be thrown in the garbage, or go and buy an avocado, which is going to be contributed in suffering?
How do you know the avocado is contributing to suffering?
Because of the things that are going on in Mexico, 90% of the avocados in the United States.
Organic farm.
Look, you seem to if you want to argue about this particular, you seem to not want to answer the question. I can come up with another hypothetical if you want. It just seems like you're trying to evade the issue.
With hypotheticals, we can get stuck in these hypotheticals forever, and we can talk about what would you do on a deserted island and a number of other scenarios that vegans are often presented with, or we can talk about what is really happening, where people are buying their meat from, which is supermarkets. And like Smokey Saint said, most of it does come from factory farms, because that was our solution to fulfilling the demand of a growing population who wants their meat cheap.
Look, I'm trying to get at the issue of your definition of morality conflicting with you wanting to promote only veganism, right? So are you just saying you're refusing to answer the question? You won't answer the question.
I don't understand how that situation applies to the real world.
Well, look, do you want me to come up with another hypothetical? So what the definition of morality is maximizing well-being. This is just like ridiculous. You're refusing to answer my question. It's being dishonest and evasive is what you're doing.
No, but the thing is do most people eat?
Look, most people don't eat thrown out meat. Most people buy meat.
I'm asking you, would you have a problem with the person eating the meat rather than the avocado? The meat that's being thrown away otherwise and is not contributing to any animal suffering.
If I could try to just clarify for Godless a little bit, try to crystal. The meat already exists. We're living in a factory farm universe where the meat exists. The meat's been killed. It's there. It's sitting on the counter. It's there. Now the person comes in and sees the meat sitting there and says, "Oh, I could have this meat that's already been killed and it's sitting there and it's ready to go." Oh no, I'm a vegan. I can't eat this meat. I have to go buy an avocado. But if I go and buy that avocado, I'm also contributing to animal suffering. That's kind of what Godless Girl, I think, is trying to say, if I'm not mistaken, Godless.
Well, to me, that would kind of go along the same lines as, well, it's not identical to lab-grown meat, but what you're saying is there's a slab of meat that exists.
Right.
in the
It's
world.
already there. It's already been done.
Hold
Damage
on.
has happened.
All right.
We can't take it back.
Let's-
You know, that type thing.
All right, let's let him
I was
finish
just
his
clarifying.
sentences.
I'm sorry, James. I was just trying to clarify for him. That's all.
Yeah, to me, that sounds similar to the roadkill argument in that you're not causing the death, you're not causing the suffering, you're just eating the corpse.
Yeah, so do you have a problem with it or not?
Well, if you didn't buy the meat, if you're not actively creating a demand for that meat, if you just like found a
Right,
dead
if you're not
animal-
creating a demand.
So that wouldn't really be a moral issue. I mean, we wouldn't eat the meat because it's a corpse and we don't view corpses as
Okay,
food.
so I mean, you wouldn't have an objection on ethical grounds. That's what I'm trying to get you to admit, is that you wouldn't have an objection on ethical grounds or something like that.
I would say more so roadkill than say just a slab of meat that came from a demand that was created and propagated by continuing to consume that meat.
What about my example for the deer? You know, the deer in the Midwest, where they've kind of built a symbiotic relationship with us through hunting because we wiped out a lot of the wolves and stuff. So there's not the typical, you know, predatory ecosystem in the Midwest that there used to be. So if we stop hunting deer go extinct. I mean, where do we draw the line about what is actually ethical here?
Wait, if we stop killing deer go extinct? What do you mean?
Do you guys not know this? Do you not know that we are built upon a symbiotic relationship with the deer in the Midwest for hunting? That's why hunting is such a big deal over there.
By symbiosis, to my understanding, means
we rely upon each other for survival. Yeah.
All right,
well, that's contradictory because how does a deer rely on you for survival?
Sure, the deer, if it eats if there's too many deer, when winter comes, there's not any food for them to eat. They all die out. You see, when we go in and hunt them, we cull the population. We take it down. And so now they have enough food to eat, and then they're able to survive through the winter. This is standard ecological data. I'm surprised you guys don't know this.
They don't have the room that they used to have because all of this land is
No, I'm talking about the woods. This is the woods. This is the woods in the Midwest. There's lots of woods in the Midwest.
You're talking about the woods. Thank you.
Yes, but human beings have displaced a lot of those woods.
Should we stop hunting deer? I'm sorry, I'm just going to make it simple. Should we stop hunting deer?
Hunting is needlessly killing an animal.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
That is what that is.
All right.
And if you're saying that if we stop hunting, then the deer don't have enough food, so they all die. I don't know how they would all die.
This is ecological data, sir. I'm really surprised by this. This is not secret info.
But you're saying we hunt their numbers down to a smaller number, and then the smaller number can survive, but for some reason the larger
through the winter with less food. If they all eat all the food because no one hunts them, there's no food for the winter, they all die. It's that simple.
Why would a hunter be interested in keeping up the deer population other than to continue to consume the deer meat? Because if it were up to the deer, if they have to go extinct because that is just the way the ecosystem has evolved, then that is, up to nature.
What the hunter's intention isn't relevant. What Smokey's saying is asking is, are you happy if a hunter saves deer life by killing some amount of deer so that a larger amount can survive if they hadn't otherwise killed them? The hunter's intention is irrelevant.
Yeah, I would need to see evidence that killing deer saves deer lives.
I will shoot it over to your emails if I can find it from your channel.
So you're against all animal testing? So like you want them to just throw out medicine on the market without having tested them?
No, there are plenty of human situations in relevantly speaking now, like with COVID-19, there are plenty of human volunteers.
Right, so you're against all animal testing, even if that leads to a greater amount of suffering in the world.
What's your evidence for that?
No, let's say it did. Like, well, I mean,
why would we assume?
How do we not? Well, wait a minute. How do we not get drugs or pharmaceuticals or anything without animal testing? We'd have to test on humans. How is that more ethical?
Those methods now. We are, there are. I mean, for example, a few years ago, I had a pterygium in my eye, and I volunteered to test these new drops. I don't think testing them on cats would be beneficial because they can't tell you if it stings, or how they feel. Can they see well? So there are certain I think we're moving past that already. I mean, unfortunately, it's still pretty prevalent. And I don't know if you're familiar with Peter Singer's book, but there are some horrible treatments that animals are subjected to for no reason.
No, I disagree there. I don't see how it could possibly be no reason. If they're especially doing it for pharmaceutical studies or something like that, they're trying to see what the byproducts are so that they know what it happens to the animal body before they introduce it to humans. So what you're actually calling for, I'm sorry to say, is to skip animal testing, go straight to humans, let humans deal with all the byproducts or the conditions that might come from not testing these on humans. You're going to increase human suffering for the sake of decreasing animal suffering, and yet this is ethical. Help me with this.
Well, there are plenty of humans who volunteer. Like even
the animals don't volunteer.
There's a Netflix documentary right now called Lenox Hill about a hospital in Manhattan that specializes in brain surgery and tumors, and they were literally testing a new drug on a volunteer patient. And that's real. That happens.
We're not snatching human beings out of the blue and forcing them into these tests.
So because we have the free will to choose to be in them, we are somehow ethically excused from it.
People are just going to end up volunteering because they want.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of drug addicts that will do almost anything for $50.
They pay people money to be like guinea pigs in a test lab, and then like they have to sign contracts that they fucking lose a hand. It's okay, and then they just do it because they need the money.
Or they just want to.
Or they want to be helpful and be part of the solution. Yeah.
Could I switch the topic a little bit here? Are we cool with this, or are we going to keep going on this? Okay. I am curious about one thing too. You guys had mentioned you live in a kind of a dense residential urban area, and you also mentioned that you rescue chickens. Are you familiar or concerned with the common diseases that farm animals carry and what they might be introducing to your neighbors in a highly dense urban environment where they might not have the immunities to farm diseases? Are you concerned with that at all?
Many of our neighbors have farmed animals too, and ours.
Okay. So the farmed animals are catching the diseases.
Hold on, let's let them finish.
Our hens are in wheelchairs. They spend most of their day indoors.
Oh
my God. We'll bring one
on.
on.
Alive in wheelchairs? That's horrible. How do you think they feel in wheelchairs? You want to minimize suffering? Euthanize those things. That's horrible.
They're not things.
They're not suffering. They're eating well and they're pooping well, and
they just sit there all day.
No, Jackie walks around. She's just missing a toe because she was on a slaughter truck with a 3,000-pound crate.
What do you mean by wheelchair? Would you keep a dog with no legs alive?
Of course.
Well, of course. If you.
Why would you not keep a dog with...
Because I want to maximize well-being and minimize suffering. And if you euthanize them, then they're not suffering anymore.
But they're not.
They're not
if
living.
you've seen, I'm sure you've seen dogs can live with it. For that matter, why not euthanize a person who's missing an arm or a leg or two? Do you want to keep, if somebody's in excruciating pain, do you want to keep them alive?
It's up to them.
What if it's an animal do you have a principled stance against people euthanizing their pets?
No.
If they're suffering, if they want to minimize, if your animal companion is in pain, we've euthanized my cats. I had two cats that one of them had lymphoma and the other one had renal failure, and we chose to ease their suffering.
A chicken wheelchair.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how you are subjectively discerning which animal is suffering in which case scenario. You seem to just kind of be like deciding on your gut, your feelings, like that a chicken in a wheelchair is okay, but a cat dying is not. Like I'm having trouble here.
You can tell when an animal feels joy, when they feel fear, when they're anxious, if they're hungry. These are basic behaviors that are very familiar.
But your worldview is through a human, not through a chicken. So you're assuming that this chicken, through its worldview, wants to live in a wheelchair and peck at things. Like, isn't that kind of an assumption?
You're
not chickens, right? How do you guys know the life worldview of a chicken and what a chicken would even want?
Well, we're also not you. We don't know how you experience.
Well, yeah, but I can communicate. They can't. How do you guys know what they want?
They They can communicate.
They communicate all the time.
They communicate. I mean, if they're ill, they communicate.
They tell you that if they want to die, that's interesting.
No, I don't think any animal wants to die. I mean, it goes against the basic principles of survival and evolution.
Okay.
I don't think any animal.
But you are calling for the wiping out of whole sectors of farm animals. You do know that, right?
Here's the thing, we're not. That's another thing that you said in your intro that I wanted to touch on.
Sure, please.
We're not calling for the genocide of millions of sentient beings. What we're hoping is that we can, and we don't want to make it illegal either to consume animal flesh. We hope that people can change their minds and hearts and gradually decrease the demand to the point of where we're not breeding them anymore. Because the only reason they exist is because we continue to breed them and continue to demand their flesh.
The vegan message is not to cull all factory farmed animals.
Well, some of them
We've saved 9 factory farmed animals.
Okay, well, on that note then, what do we do with all the animals? Because certainly, you know, I mean, we can't just bring them into people's houses, can we? I mean...
They're not going to go, we're not going to eliminate them overnight.
No, I know. What do we do with them? What do we do? We have all the, okay, you guys get your way. We get rid of factory farms. Factory farms are outlawed, new policy in place. What do we do with all the animals?
Well, unfortunately, the world will not go vegan overnight, unfortunately. And so what will happen, just like with every other outdated industry, when a new technology comes along and replaces it, it's a slow progress. And slowly, as people reduce their demand for animal products, the animal product producers will slowly stop breeding the animals.
So do you guys have an ethical issue if someone did exactly like you did, kept chickens, kept pigs, kept whatever, but they ate their products? Would you have an issue with that? Like if they ate their eggs instead of giving it back to their chickens, would you guys have an ethical issue with that? If they rescued farmed chickens and ate the eggs, is that a problem?
Well, if it's an egg-laying chicken, then she is releasing a ton of nutrients, minerals, vitamins in the egg-laying process. So if you don't let her eat her eggs, it's really hard for her to recoup that calcium and iron that she lost.
She can develop osteoporosis and a host of
What does osteoporosis matter? They're sitting in a fucking wheelchair.
Hold on, let's let him finish.
Well, I mean, it's osteoporosis is actually very common in egg-laying hens in the industry, and as are other illnesses. I mean, there are so many. Salpingitis is another one, and that's.
You guys know why? Do you guys know why?
Smokey.
Sorry. I'm just wondering, because they're going on a whole thing of all the problems they have. I'm aware of all the problems they have, but do you know why they have all those problems?
We do know why, of course, because they've been selectively bred to lay more eggs than their bodies can handle.
Beautiful. We agree. Okay, we agree. And that's, I guess that's maybe part of my struggle, guys, is I'm trying to rationalize understanding how we don't kind of like wipe out species here, or, you know, integrate species into society, which by the way is kind of what I argued. I mean, I don't actually have an issue with pushing back towards the resurgence of family farms. I mean, do you guys see an ethical issue with that?
Well, realistically speaking, remember how you said, you know, essentially factory farms were the solution to feeding 8 billion people who want meat. I don't think that would even happen unless the demand drastically dropped.
Okay. Well, is it at least reasonable maybe to say, at least maybe to the non-vegan community, hey guys, why don't you at least push towards getting your meat from, you know, non-commercial suppliers if you can? Like, why not kind of make it more of like an ethical drive to really just even push more people to do what you guys already do, but to maybe create a cultivated environment where you actually have an appreciation for the product instead of just going to the supermarket, picking it up, and you have no connection, no association, no value to the process of which the meat came to your plate.
Well,
you see where I'm coming from?
Frankly, most people wouldn't be interested. I think that's why we have different, you know, that's why we have farmers and teachers and doctors. Like, not everybody wants to raise animals. It's a hard.
Well, I'm not talking about everyone, but, you know, we do have a lot of people that wish they could raise animals. But, you know, like, for instance, you guys, if I'm not mistaken, in LA, unless you guys have a variance, I'm not sure you're allowed to keep backyard fowl.
No, in certain parts of the city you are.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not allowed to have is more than one rooster, for example, in certain parts of the city.
So you guys are within code variance for your city.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And you don't have any issue with someone maybe did exactly that you did, but ate the eggs instead? Or you're saying, nope, the chicken needs it. There's vitamins there. They're not allowed to eat it. Like, is that really where you're at on that?
Yes, that and the objectification of a living sentient being.
Well, that's not objectifying because they're just doing what you guys did.
And it also opens a when you present a window, people tend to make a door, and most people are not going to be raising backyard hens. They're going to want to buy their eggs. So by making it okay to eat eggs, period, and that's also assuming that those people aren't also going out to eat and not eating eggs elsewhere, or products that contain eggs.
Yeah, what you're describing is animal welfareism, and that's not consistent with the vegan message. Like, vegans don't want animals to be like humanely killed. We don't want them to be killed because it's wrong. So in the same way that you wouldn't advocate for like better conditions for child laborers, you don't advocate for like better conditions for farmed animals. If it's morally wrong, the advocate is saying we should stop doing this.
Well, that kind of takes me into my whole issue of the economic vacuum. How do you guys satiate that issue, which is a natural component of human society? What are you going to do when people are hiding the animals they're raising, and because they have to hide them, treat them just monstrously, even worse than what they are today? What then? You're not going to, just so you understand, I don't think there's any policy you guys could ever create or pass or enforce that would actually eliminate animal suffering.
We can't force people by law to do something moral.
We wouldn't want to either.
There's underground dog fighting, there's underground cockfighting, there's all sorts of underground black market wrong things that people do all the time, and we could legislate it all we want. It's more about talking to people and getting them to understand where their food comes from, where their leather jacket came from, where their down jacket came from, and getting them to connect to the living sentient being that was on the other end of that product.
Well, I guess I'm just trying to
legislate it.
Right. No, I see. But ultimately, it would come to legislation, would it not? I mean, you guys are kind of taking a soft stance to it, and I understand you're saying, well, we just want to convince the culture to change.
But yeah, like we just
like the fur ban. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but we did pass a law in Los Angeles. Well, now it's California, right? All of California.
Statewide.
Any new manufacturer or sale of animal fur is prohibited. And when we went to City Hall and attended the hearings, and something our council member said that was very impactful was that sometimes we have to make laws because people won't change their behavior, which the thing is with fur, I think it was easier for people to understand that fur is unnecessary. It's a fashion statement. Why do you need fur in California? We're in a desert, things like that. So it was easier for people to grasp that. And also, fur is a dying industry. There were maybe like 40 furriers in all of Los Angeles. So we've progressed to that point. But, I don't know, 50 years ago, everyone was wearing fur in Hollywood. No one would have heard of it.
And a whole bunch of non-vegans had to vote on that for it to pass. So we had to change people's perception, change their hearts and minds, and then eventually it did become a law. But there's a law against murder, there's a law against rape. People still murder and rape. Like, you can't legislate morality out of people.
Yeah, that's fair. At least you're being realistic about that. I have actually been talking for a while. I probably should hand it off to Godless if she has a question.
I just want to, I have moving away from debate, but there is an observation I want to touch on. But before that, are you guys Christians?
We both grew up Christian.
I was raised Catholic, but I am not.
So, like, you think Jesus was immoral for eating fish, then, right?
That's assuming that he actually ate fish. I mean, it's hard to prove.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the Jesus in the Bible, that one.
The Jesus in the Bible.
Well, yeah, I mean, eating fish when you don't have to eat fish is an immoral behavior, yes. But there's a whole other side conversation about how that text was translated that we could get into.
That's interesting. You say don't have to. That's a very, very broad subjective discerner. So, I mean, what is kind of your defining boundary of have to, like, in terms of animal products?
When you have animals, not products.
Yeah.
But when you have other choices, you know, like we
Especially
can't
abundant choices.
abundant choices. You can, you know, a lot of, not everybody, but a lot of people have the option of going to the store and choosing, you know, what they want to buy, versus say someone who lives, because we've been asked before, like, what about the people who live in the Antarctic and they can't grow vegetables, or their vegetables and fruit are not readily available to them? Well, we are not talking about them. We're talking about the people who have the choice.
Okay. Well, how do we see? I'm struggling with this. You're saying, I mean, we do have the choice, and we do. Most of us do. And I think if we happen to live in a dense urbanite center with lots of options, you're right. But that's not most of America. I mean, you know, most of America is rural. You know, these people live off the land. Like, and I know this is what worries me, is that when you guys have spent most of, if not all your lives in a very closed bubble of urban lifestyle, is you maybe lose connection with the way that other people live in their culture. I mean, did you guys live on a farm? Did you grow up on a farm? Have you been around animals? I mean, give me some story here.
I grew up in Costa Rica.
And I'm from West Virginia, so we're not city folk. We are familiar with rural farm
Well,
life.
but have you been on a farm? Have you lived on a farm? Have you worked on a farm?
Yeah, I've been to, yes, to all those things.
I've never worked on a farm. I have been to it.
Yes, not worked on a farm.
Okay, but and you do understand, you want to tell them, these people that have had it bred in their culture for probably a couple hundred years, to stop doing this. You know, get rid of all your, what do they do with it? What do you tell them to do with their cattle, by the way? Yeah, but like, let's say a rancher came to you and said, oh, these annoying vegans, they're not annoying, they're awesome. What do I do with my cows? What's the answer?
We don't want to tell them to stop. We're not, the thing is, it's not going to stop. The source of the production of meat.
Well, they can't afford to continue to feed the cattle. They can't continue to afford to feed the cattle if they're
Let's hear the rest of what Anna was saying, and then, although this is, once we hear a response from Anna, in order to continue on this, we'd have to know exactly how it ties with, like, the whether or not it's morally wrong to be vegan per se.
Well, yeah. I want to bring up something that's like.
Well, I do want to let Anna finish.
So
though.
go ahead, Anna.
I was just saying that we're not going to tell farmers to stop. I mean, that's the source of the issue is the consumer. When the consumer decides to transition their taste, which has happened many times. I mean, that's why rotary phones went out of business. You know, like these things happen, that they're part of the progressive society. So when that starts to happen, farmers might choose to transition to other mediums. I mean, we have Elmhurst Dairy. It used to be Elmhurst Dairy, is now producing plant-based milks because they picked up on where the trend was, and it's not going to be dairy.
Do you guys realistically appreciate that a farmer wouldn't be able to continue to feed his cows if he wasn't able to make money off the meat? So you are telling him to stop. You're just doing it indirectly.
Yes, I mean, but you're exploiting a victim. So it doesn't matter that by exploiting the victim, you're able to feed the victim. Like that doesn't matter to the victim. The victim is still being exploited and eventually will be murdered needlessly just because someone wants to eat them.
So it should be allowed to just live until it drops dead, and that's the ethical decision. And it's
ideally, I think everyone should be allowed to live freely as they choose.
And then they drop dead, and the meat isn't used. The meat's not allowed to be used after they drop dead.
No, we already talked about the roadkill. Like, if you want to eat a corpse that's just out in the woods, I mean, that's.
Well, we're talking about the farm and the ethical requirement of the farmer who says, I agree now with the ethics of those annoying vegans, and now I need to cultivate my lifestyle to match what they want. So if they're coming to you, I'm having a hard time understanding how they're going to reconcile their lifestyle and culture to meet what you guys want.
Like, how would we, if they wanted to transition, that actually does exist and that does happen, and there are many organizations who help farmers transition. They will either donate.
They try to place the animals, right?
Place the animals to place the animals in a sanctuary, and I don't know, start veganic farming.
Okay, so that's the answer, is sanctuaries everywhere, I guess. Big farm zoos.
Well, we tried it. the thing is, like,
They are very therapeutic.
You think zoos are ethical?
no.
Then why would you want a bunch of animals to be kept in zoos, basically? Because let's face it, chickens, goats, pigs, not going to survive in the wild. They don't have any defense mechanisms. It's been bred out of them.
Yeah, and neither would a Chihuahua. But we don't needlessly breed and murder Chihuahuas by the billions. I mean,
Well, we don't breed billions of Chihuahuas. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's not part of our food system.
maybe we shouldn't breed billions of chickens, pigs, and cows.
Well, but that's fine if you want to say that, but that ship has sailed. And so now if you want to make an argument to the contrary, you're going to have to answer the existential question of the dilemmas you're going to create from your policies. I'm sorry, but you guys don't get to say, well, it's 1950 again, let's do it different. But we have all this stuff here today.
What we already said was that, unfortunately, the world will not go vegan overnight. And so slowly fewer animals will be bred into existence until there aren't billions of chickens, cows, and pigs.
Okay, so this is just basically just a slow push by you guys.
Well,
Not us, but
yeah,
hopefully
it
the world.
will have to be.
The thing is, like, we weren't vegan. We've been vegan now 5 years. The thing is, you cannot force veganism on people. It's something that happens. It's a realization. It's a choice that people make when they learn information that they're no longer comfortable with.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like vegans are overtaking the world. It's people, non-vegans, are changing their hearts and minds.
Yeah.
Gradually, little by little.
And it's largely non-vegans creating that change, because vegans are such a small percentage of the population. Like, Beyond Meat wouldn't exist if only vegans bought Beyond Meat. Like, there's a ton of non-vegans buying these vegan products and switching over.
And you guys are certain that based upon economic impact that we would have no issue growing enough food for everyone.
We already grow enough food to feed 70 billion land animals. I don't know why we couldn't.
Well,
feed
yeah,
billion
but
humans.
that's what I'm saying. Like, people, you want to basically take that away that we're giving to the animals, but you're not really taking it away. You're saying, well, we already give it to the animals. Yeah, we're going to have to keep giving it to the animals because we want the animals to keep living, right? So,
yeah, but if we stop
so we have to keep feeding the animals, but we're not allowed to slaughter the animals and use their meat. How are you not calling for a shortage or a famine?
Because we will stop like, animals are bred into existence every single hour of every single day. It's happening all the time. We slaughter trillions of animals every day.
And we eat them. We don't keep feeding them.
Correct. So we could stop breeding them, and that would stop their growth, and there would be less animals to feed. But we're routinely breeding them, and so we're having to a farmer has to always feed cows for his entire career because he's always breeding new cows to be murdered at the age of like 18 months.
It's anyone that keeps animals of any kind. I mean, you're kind of saying, well, like, great, you know, it's solved once we get the number down. I'm asking you guys what we're supposed to do to get the number down. And like, you know, if you either have an implemented policy or you have a cultural shift, you need to kind of like at least tell me what you're really pushing for, because I'm confused.
Well, we're already getting the number down. Like, dairy sales are down, meat sales are down, plant-based product sales are up. It's already happening. I mean,
but
consumer-driven.
Factory farms have not gone away, and certainly I think if you guys thought that this was enough, you would stop. If you thought it's already been enough and that this is just on its way down, well, I mean, what's the point in kind of really continuing with this? Just continue to push the way you're pushing, that there's more animal products, as opposed to drawing some sort of ethical line that using animals is wrong.
Smokey, I need you to tie together the strings here for the some of the audience are asking, like, how does this have to do with whether or not veganism per se is wrong?
What ends up happening is you compromise the livelihoods of people by demanding that they accept a standard that you have arbitrarily judged as ethical. Now, you're requiring that ethical standard on them. And what ends up happening is you not only are going to cause suffering to the animals, but also to the people that care for the animals. And this is what I'm having a hard time.
Well,
I can try to.
Not from you, Godless Girl. No offense, Godless Girl, but just to hear from Anna and Brian.
All we have to do in most every scenario that is brought up against veganism is replace the victim. So if what you're saying is, if someone had a warehouse full of child slaves, and you were saying, if you outlaw child slavery, you're going to decrease the well-being of the owner of this child slave warehouse. okay. It's an immoral action. There are victims involved. There is pain and suffering being caused needlessly. So it will be a transition.
I don't see animals and humans as equals, and I haven't heard an argument for that.
We're both sentient living beings.
Well, but they don't have the capacity for complex emotions like we do, or cognitive thought, or abstracts, or self-realization.
At the very basic, the very basic emotion, the very basic emotions of joy, pain, fear, those emotions are experienced by animals, and
Sure.
and yeah, you would agree, because they're biologically, like, they're an evolutionary trait that animals need in order
So to you guys, the mistreatment of an animal and a human is equal?
Which animal and which human? I mean,
I don't think that a little shrimp feels fear and joy.
Well, we don't know
I
that.
don't
but
know.
I would rather err on the side of, why would I cause the shrimp, any pain or any potential pain when I don't have to,
Can I change the subject?
Go ahead. I yield. I've been talking for a while.
We'll humor you. We have time for maybe one quick last subject before we go to the Q&A.
So this is a good thing to actually wrap it up with. It's moving away from debate too. It's just, I think you guys are nice and well-intentioned. I think that lots of times, I haven't watched your content, but lots of times I think vegans are actually counterproductive. Vegans on the internet are actually counterproductive. They like turn people off of it because they're so in your face. I'm not saying you guys are anything, but this is just an observation. I think that almost half your battle would be won, and I think people would be more receptive to it if, instead of trying to get people to eat vegan, you just made them feel guilty about all the waste. Because like around dairy products, it's like in the United States, it's like around 50% get thrown away. And I know personally that's the only time I really feel guilty about my buying animal products, is when it gets thrown away in the garbage rather than me consuming it.
Let's hear from Anna and Brian, and then we'll go to Q&A. Thanks for your patience.
Different vegan activists have different approaches that they take, and
much like with any other justice movement.
Yeah. So not everyone is going to like every vegan, just like not everyone is going to like every meat eater. But the message of veganism, the idea of veganism, is minimizing pain and suffering, maximizing well-being for all sentient beings, because discriminating based on species is, like we said in our opening, it's arbitrary. It's no different than discriminating based on race. And so especially if we don't have to cause needless suffering, yes, there's waste in the dairy industry, for example. Yes, there's environmental factors to consider. Yes, there's health arguments that can be made. But at its core, veganism is the belief that non-human animals are sentient. They experience pain and love and joy.
And at least deserve equal consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Thank you very much, Anna, Brian, Smokey, and Godless Girl. We really appreciate you guys being here. And so with that, we will go into the Q&A. Folks, as you've been listening, want to let you know, I put all of the guest links in the description. So if you're listening and you're like, oh, I wish I could hear more, the debate's going to end soon, you can hear plenty more by going to their links. And so with that, first, thanks for your super chat from Nasty Guy. Steven Steen says, veganism is the gateway drug to MAGA. He's just one of our trolls. Don't worry. MAGA is in...
America great.
Yeah, don't worry about him. Let's see.
You can be a Republican and be vegan, by the way. It exists.
That's true. I have to remind everybody, nobody knows this. Wotan is actually a vegan. He's one of our regulars here. So, Raven Zero, thanks for your question. Said, let's see. Raven Zero says they're taking the side of... Godless Girl, forgive me for this, but I have to read it as it says. Taking the side of crazy girl, Godless Girl on this one. Well, you kind of have a fan in a way. Dave, thanks for your question. They said in summertime. This is a really fitting. If I remember right, Anna and Brian, I think I remember you guys. Do you remember you have recipes on your channel? Is that
yours?
Yeah,
okay. You're still there.
That's right. And so Dave Gar said, it's summertime in Texas and I love to grill. James, please ask the interlocutors for their best grill recipes. And so I suppose they didn't specify interlocutors, but I know a lot of people maybe don't know there are vegan grilling alternatives or ideas, right? So
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm happy to hear from all 4 interlocutors. I don't grill myself. I wouldn't trust me grilling, but we'll go ahead. If we want to hear first, we can go from right to left this time. So starting with Godless Girl, do you grill?
No, I don't. I
Gotcha.
haven't in a very long time.
And Smokey, any recipes off the top of your head?
I'm an amazing cook, and I love to use a smoker. Imagine that. Yeah, no, I love to do ribs. Actually, one of my favorite things to grill.
Gotcha. And then Anna and Brian.
You should mention that because one of our most popular recipes on our channel, most watched videos, are our vegan ribs recipe.
Actually, a 4th of July
It's a
recipe.
4th of July recipe. That
Well,
we made.
you know what? Then I'm gonna have to go check it out, and maybe I'll have to try it.
Really?
Yeah, we're wearing American flag shirts in the thumbnail.
I'll be maybe saving a pig that day, and I'll do it just for you guys.
Well, thank you.
Excellent. And thanks for your question from Logical, Plausible, Probable. John Maddox says, Smokey Saint is having an after show. Don't miss it. Gotcha. Let's see.
Thank you, Maddox.
Next, Stupid Whore Energy, one of our regulars, says, for the vegan side, do you think that a tax on meat consumption would be effective?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just like with anything
Like
else.
a carbon tax.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you know, and I know Smokey touched on environmental impact. Meat production is very intensive on the environment. I mean, it causes ocean dead zones, water pollution, in lower socioeconomic communities. There's, I mean, a lot of illness associated with, say, the pig hog farms, say in North Carolina. People have been diagnosed with lung cancer and other ailments just because of the manure that is sprayed into the air, and these people have no political clout. So it's causing it's like trickling into so many different aspects of health and environment that, yeah, sure, I think it would benefit from tax.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. And Genius Tracks, thanks for your statement. Said, this super chat is just an appreciation for you, James. You work hard and you're a great example for people. Cheers, buddy. Thank you so much.
That must feel good to have you have a super chat to you.
That's sweet.
It means I do appreciate that, Genius Tracks. That really does encourage me. And Decepticons Forever, thanks for your... Let's see.
Oh.
I've got to read it, Godless Girl. They said, Godless Girl scares me. Okay, well... I mean, they could mean that in a good way. Next up, thanks for your super chat from...
By the way, James, if there's anything super brutal towards me, just read it as is, please.
You got it. I promise I will. And Peter...
We've received plenty of comments that are not kind. We're used to it, so read them now.
That's true. Everybody here probably gets some heat. I'm sure that's so true.
Everything under the sun.
Yeah.
Just start a vegan YouTube channel and see what kind of comments you start getting.
Oh man. Well, Decepticons Forever. We do have some positive ones for you coming up. So Decepticons Forever, thanks for your... we got that one. Peter Refsgard, thanks for your question. Said, Godless Girl, do you have... Let's see. So sorry. Do you have a resting BETCH, they spelled it differently for you, face, or are you trying?
I don't know if I understand. A resting bitch face?
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
I'm just using my normal face. I don't know what I guess I don't understand the question.
I
thought I was abnormally pleasant tonight.
Yes, you were actually really congenial tonight. We really appreciate that. And so yes, this is she's got a tremendous face, very pleasant, and Logical, Plausible, Probable, who also has a pleasant face. John, good to see you again, says, for vegans, are they pro-life or pro-choice? If pro-choice, how do they defend killing humans while pushing to not kill other quote unquote animals?
That's a common misconception, is that vegans need be one or the other. But us personally, we lean more towards the pro-life stance, with, of course, the some of the logical exceptions, like, you know, is this the mother's life is in danger, the baby's life is in danger, there's complications and things like that.
Yeah. As a form of birth control, it's obviously it's like needless killing is needless killing. If it's a human being, if it's an animal, it's wrong.
I commend you guys for your consistency. That's very nice. Thank you.
Gotcha. And that reminds me, I've been looking so hard on Twitter. Kay Fellows, if everybody remembers her, libertarian. She is a pro-life libertarian. She's kind of like, she's assertive. We like her. She's looking for a person to debate who is pro-choice. So I've been asking so many people on Twitter, everybody's turning me down. So if there's somebody out there, she asked if it could be another female debater. So let me know if you have interest in that. And Brandon Arteline, thanks for your question, said, vegan arguments always boil down to factory farming. Too bad you can oppose suffering and still be an omnivore. Factory farming needs reform.
Well, no, as we said, the factory farming is not crucial to the vegan argument. The vegan argument is that needless suffering, torture, death, abuse, rape, murder, in whatever form is wrong, and we should stop doing it.
Here's the thing. One of the things I wanted to touch on regarding that is, like, most people, you would argue, would, you know, even Smokey Saint mentioned that he's in a way, correct me if I'm wrong, you value animal welfare. Most
of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Value animal welfare. But my question is, why do we draw the line at killing the animal? It's almost like where our convenience begins is where we draw the line at animal welfare. Like the cow slaughterhouse where we used to go and hold vigil, they have a huge sign on the gate and it says animal abuse will not be tolerated. And I'm like, wait, hold on, you slaughter cows here. How is that all of a sudden not animal abuse?
Yeah, isn't killing someone at 18 months old abusive?
Yeah. So whether at a factory farm or at a small scale farm, the animal doesn't care. Of course, the animal would prefer to live a happy, healthy, full life. But when it comes to their killing day, it doesn't matter where they're from.
Gotcha. And thanks so much for your question from Capitalism with a K. Says, let's see.
Hi, capitalism.
They say, go Godless Girl. Godless Girl, you got a fan out there. There you go.
That's actually my friend from Discord.
Well, there you go. Still counts. Okay, so Stupid Whore Energy strikes again. She says, mass production of meat from livestock is one cause of climate change, with estimates of greenhouse emissions up to 51%. Smokey and Godless Girl, what do you have to say for yourselves?
That's going to take it into a whole climate debate and whether or not it's man-made introduced. So if Stupid Whore wants to debate that or talk about it, she can come to my channel.
I don't know anything about those empirical issues.
Gotcha.
Can I ask a question, James?
Yeah.
Just because, like, I love the channel, and it's really, thank you so much for having us on. But Stupid Whore Energy is always in the Q&As. I'm just wondering, is she vegan? If she could message back.
I'm wondering myself. Let us know in the chat.
Bet she is.
SWE, and I'm curious myself, because she does have at least sympathy, and so we'll see what she says. And Tioga, buddy of Stupid Whore Energy, says, carry on is vegan, don't at me. I don't know, she's spelling it carry on, Carrion. I'm not sure what that means.
Carry on. Oh, carrion is like roadkill.
Roadkill,
oh, okay,
or like,
gotcha.
or no, is it like guts that they yank out of the animal or something?
No, I think
I'm not familiar with my terminology either. I'm not sure what that is.
it's like what vultures eat.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. And P.S., by the way, Logical, Plausible, Probable is hosting Godless Engineer and Praise on whether or not Jesus actually existed. That's I pinned it in the live chat. We will always let you know about debates on other channels, no matter it be Christian, atheist channel, you name it. We're happy to let you know, folks. And Stupid, let's see. You've got that one. Flat Earth News, thanks for your kind words. Good to see James doing a better job of moderating. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. Rodney Fallberg, thanks for your question. Said, Godless Girl, stop, with all caps, with the hypotheticals. They are not facts. hypotheticals are smokescreens meant to distract from the argument. Also, Gigi and Smokey, difference in testing humans versus testing animals is consent.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody who says you can't argue with hypotheticals is just revealing their ignorance of fucking philosophy.
And you're just pushing off the byproducts of what is tested from the animal to the human, and you still need to make an argument as to why that's more ethical.
Next, Tioga, thanks for your question statement. Said the non-vegans would kill animals, but are being judgy about. What? They said the non-vegans would kill animals, but are being judgy toward the vegans about killing animals. Go figure.
Wait, what?
That was an
Directed at
internal
them.
critique that Smokey Saint was doing.
Yeah, it was an internal presuppositional worldview critique. I don't that person's confused.
Okay. Next, logical, plausible, probable. Thank you for your correction. The debate between Godless Engineer and Praise is going to be on Standing for Truth channel, not John. Sorry about that. And let's see, we got Rodney's question. Thanks for that. Rodney asked another one, said, note to self, don't get injured around Godless Girl. She might. Next, Stupid Horror Energy, thanks for your...
I might euthanize you. That's what he means.
Next up, said Stupid Horror Energy said, scientists have shown that animals feel pleasure as well as pain. In many countries, animal sentience has been included in many codes and laws. For example, in the EU as of 1997.
Well, we also have laws here that protect certain species. It's just an arbitrary line, like cats and dogs. Like if you abuse a dog, that's a problem in this society. But if you abuse a pig, it's fine.
Is that one of the crippled chickens?
This is an objection toward you, Smokey and Godless Girl. I hadn't even seen. What is it? Does it have a name?
She's Kate.
She's Kate. Very cute.
She's a little chicken. Very little chicken.
And the objection, Smokey and Godless Girl, was for you. This is Stupid Horror Energy saying, hey, in many countries, animal sentience has been included in many codes and laws, and scientists have shown that animals feel pleasure as well as pain.
Some cultures have cannibalism and rape as a norm. What type of argument is that?
Next, Ryan Gordon, thanks for your question, said, without harvesting animals, you have overpopulation, which causes wrecks, diseases, and death. Eating them, I think they mean, for example, like deer, is the only humane way of harvesting them. I think this is kind of touched on in the debate.
The word harvest.
Yeah, I know.
Harvest seems to be
Rather use the word harvest than kill. It's
like
strange.
Such a weird euphemism.
Well, but the majority of people don't eat deer and moose and like wild caught game. The majority of people eat animals that are specifically bred into existence to be killed as babies. Like chickens are killed at 6 weeks old, pigs are killed at 6 months old, cows are killed at 2 to 5 years old. So it's not really a practical argument or solution.
Gotcha. And super interesting that harvest is a euphemism. I never even realized that it has to be. It has to be.
It's for when people feel uncomfortable talking about what they're actually doing, which is killing an animal against their will needlessly.
Next, thanks for your question. A statement from Happy Dude says, Godless Girl's egg argument applies to consuming, not killing. I think that they are referring to, so I think that this is one that I thought myself. I was like, I let it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first half. Can you repeat it? I apologize.
They said Godless Girl's egg argument, or thought pump, you might say, like intuition pump, is it applies to consuming animals but not killing. I think what they're saying is that.
Yeah, that was my point.
I think though that they're,
because veganism was defined as consuming, not killing. So that was my point.
Well, exploiting, to be fair.
If we
Veganism avoid animal
right. So if you can, my point was, if you can consume without exploiting, then they wouldn't have a problem with that under their definition of veganism. That was my point.
Yeah, just like a baby can drink his mother's breast milk and it's fine, even though it's an animal product.
Gotcha. And thank you very much, Ryan Gordon, for your statement. Said, let's see. No offense, but not convinced. Let's see. Toward our vegan guests. We love you guys. But you gotta, Ryan's a skeptic still. Sigifredo Sarabia, thanks for your question, said, Godless Girl, I liked you yesterday, but evolution hates you if you don't have children, as your duty to procreate according to evolution is going against your well-being and the well-being of your species. So are you below...
I don't think that evolution has intentions, so I don't know what the fuck that person is talking about.
I love Godless.
You must
You
procreate.
must. Well, yeah. Evolution demands it.
I tried, Sigifredo. Next up, Connor D says, paying someone to do human testing isn't consent in the same way paying a homeless person to sleep with you for money is. Starve or bang, not consent. When did that come up? Okay.
Oh, I think they're talking about how they said they could use humans as test subjects instead of animals.
I see. Did you guys talk about prostituting homeless people?
No, we were talking about
No.
how people will submit themselves to testing for money.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
Like consent could be leveraged was kind of the point.
I see what you're saying. And Sigifredo, let's see. I still don't get it. Next up, Sigifredo Sarabia.
Why are the people in the comments so dumb?
Says Sigifredo says, any issues with vegetarians, or can it be a given if majority of them don't want to eat meat? Then milking can't be less cruel, or no milk.
Well, I'm not sure the way the question's formulated is a little tricky or unclear, but the issue, are they asking if we have an issue with vegetarians?
I
We
think
can tell you why dairy is cruel.
They said I'm figuring out myself. They said any issues with vegetarians. I think they're saying, like, do you guys have any issues with vegetarians, or can it be a given if majority don't want to eat meat? I think they're saying, like, if the majority of vegetarians don't want to eat meat, then milking can't be less cruel, or no milk. Come on, Sigifredo. Go ahead.
Well, the thing with dairy, other than the fact that we can go into it, but in a nutshell,
Why dairy is immoral.
In a nutshell, the dairy cows aren't enslaved their entire lives. Not their entire lives. Cows can live up to be 18 years old, but they are usually killed at 4 when their bodies are unable to continue producing milk, because they are kept perpetually pregnant in order to keep producing milk. They suffer the emotional trauma of having their newborn calves taken from them, so that people can get the milk. And once they're unable to produce more milk, they're no longer profitable to the farmer, so they are sent to slaughter. So they are part of the meat industry as well.
Yeah. And also male dairy calves exist. Unfortunately, they don't make milk. So most male dairy calves are shot in the first few days that they're alive. They're killed as babies. And some people have coined a term for that called veal. So if you eat veal, that's code for dead baby cow.
Gotcha. And Steven Steen, thanks for your question statement, said, we should end all the carnivores for being immoral. Oh gosh, well, okay, Steven.
Well, that's super moral. Beautiful, bro. Nice show.
Next up, what? I'm just the messenger. Okay, next.
Non-human carnivores?
He's a troll. He's saying we should end all carnivores for being immoral.
Like non-human carnivores, is that what he's talking about?
I think he means
people on
humans.
the carnivore diet.
Oh, maybe. Okay, was he? I guess like.
See, I read genocide out of that.
That's
I don't
what
know.
I got.
Maybe, yeah, me
But-
too.
Well, of course, like we're not lions. Humans aren't lions.
Gotcha.
So,
Fair
We
enough.
have moral agency.
And Tiffany Bear, thanks for your question, said, for the vegans, my health suffered for years on a vegan diet. If I'm just another animal, what about my suffering? I'm much better off on a meat-heavy diet.
Well, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is the largest group of nutrition professionals in the world, They are not a vegan organization, and they released a peer-reviewed statement in 2016 saying that vegan diets can be nutritionally adequate for all stages of
Plant-based. Now you're making the same mistake.
Plant-based diets, 100% plant-based diets
Vegan.
can be nutritionally adequate if they are well planned. So she
Just
says
like any other diet needs to be well planned.
Of course. So she says
don't
vegan
plan my
diet. I don't know what that means. We don't know what she was eating. All we know is what she was not eating. So that's why the word vegan diet doesn't make sense.
Gotcha.
So you could eat soda and Pringles, and that can be vegan, you know.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. And so I'm trying to figure out, Sigifredo has another. This one for Smokey. They said, Smokey, in Genesis, God says, quote, "The plants are there for food. Did the Christian God ever tell us to eat plants? And Jesus ate fish or lamb? What to do morally?"
It's not an issue morally. We were called to bring all of creation under our subjugation, and our bodies have been cultivated to be able to process meat. In fact, it's actually built into our physiology. So I'm not sure what the issue would actually be. We're not certainly doing anything unethical or immoral in a biblical standard, in my opinion.
I think what they're asking about, like, is maybe he's asking about it the first part. He's trying to understand the Christian theology, like in its start, would start where before the flood, people were told to just eat plants.
Oh, we talking about like before the fall. That's a huge unpack, James. I'm sorry. That's not something I can do in even 30 seconds.
No problem. Tiffany, we got hers. Raven Zero, thanks for your statement. Said, let's see. Said, okay, they said they're a fan of Smokey and Godless Girl. You've got a fan out there, guys.
Thank you.
Cool.
Even it's like
Come on our after show.
It's making
come
up
on.
for all the hate comments.
Come on over and say hi.
Next up, Kadajito, thanks for your question. Said they responded. Let's see. They are in agreement. They are your fans. You've got Godless Girl that you're winning the crowd over, apparently. Okay, next up, Tiffany Bear. Thanks for your super chat. Said, shout out to Smokey and Gigi for a job well done. Wow, Godless Girl. It's like you're becoming YouTube's favorite daughter. You're replacing Erica, Gutsick Gibbon. I love Erica. She's terrific. By the way,
Half of my viewers are haters.
Well, yeah.
Not today.
Thanks for your super chat from Sigifredo. Said, Godless Girl, if I said 1, it's immoral to kill animals unnecessarily. 2, consuming animals in the U.S. is unnecessary. 3, it's immoral to kill animals unnecessarily in the U.S. or infringe on their free will. What's your issue with that argument?
It doesn't. What's the conclusion?
I think that 3 is supposed to be their conclusion. They're saying, premise 1, it's immoral to kill animals unnecessarily. Premise 2, it's not necessary.
I don't even accept the first premise because a moral statement is what you ought to do, right? So that's just gonna. And I'm a moral non-cognitivist. So if they want to come on Smokey Saint's stream and debate me, I'll humiliate them afterwards. What a moral fucking ought is.
Next up, Red Rider 197. Thanks for your question. Said, if Ask Yourself is available, would Smokey be willing to debate him on veganism?
One more time. Sorry.
Smokey, no, you don't.
Who is it?
He is one of the most formidable debaters I've ever met. He will name the trait argument on you and destroy you. I wouldn't even debate him on it.
Who is it?
Ask yourself.
Ask yourself.
I'm not super familiar with them. I'll consider it.
Vegan philosopher. Wait, hold on one sec. Steve McRae's manager is in the chat again. Says, I don't think it's really Steve McRae's real manager. Says, James, I have a lot of respect for you. Thank you for reading my super chat last night. You're welcome for reading your slanderous super chat last night. But next up, Steven, let's see. Thank you for your super sticker of a unicorn with a rainbow tail. Next, thank you for your... thank you for your question from Little Miss Betty Page, a.k.a. Tan. Are you against feeding crickets to my tarantula, or are crickets not sentient enough?
We feed them mealworms.
Yeah, I mean, well, the sentience of insects, I don't know if there's conclusive evidence on that, but if a tarantula is a carnivorous animal, then the species appropriate diet would be to eat crickets. I mean, we can't impose our human morality on non-human animals. We are moral agents. And so when we talk about veganism, we're not trying to turn lions or cats or sharks vegan. We're talking about Homo sapiens.
You got it. Thank you. Some love. All right, next. Thanks for your question from Earl of Sandwich. Says, we can choose to let things live. That's why vegan. Did anybody else get that?
We can choose to let animals live, so you should be vegan?
That's what I would have guessed it meant. I'm confused.
Yeah, I mean, you can choose not to steal from someone, so you shouldn't do it. I mean, I don't know what the are they making a moral?
It's probably a statement.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm baffled myself. We'll keep an eye. Oh wait, did we hold on in the live chat? I missed it. Did Stupid Whore Energy answer if she's a vegan? Can anybody answer me that? I'll keep an eye on the live chat this time. I lost track of it last time. And thanks for your question for the knowing guy. Says, to the non-vegans, what would convince you to become a vegan?
If they came up with some better tasting food.
Well, if a lot of my economic and environmental issues could actually be handled with actual coherent policies being presented, I could be swayed.
Gotcha. And Joshua and Tuss and Rage say, and Logical Plausible say, yes, she is a vegan. So apparently she did answer. And Mike Ortiz, thanks for your question, said, what do the vegans feel about grown meat research?
Yeah, lab-grown meat.
I think that's
it's certainly a way more ethical way to get real animal flesh and not exploit an animal. Us personally, we wouldn't be interested in eating it, but it would be a better solution for people who want to eat real meat and for like domesticated carnivore animals.
Gotcha, thank you. And let's see. Stupid Whore. Oh, okay, Stupid Whore Energy says, yeah, I'm vegan. I once tried to start a vegan food truck in New York City. Really interesting. Logical, Plausible, Probable, thanks for your question, said, that debate is on, we read that. The debate's on Standing for Truth's channel. Translator Carminum said, sentience is a spectrum. Killing a chicken is not equivalent to killing, for example, a dolphin. And if I had to kill a chicken to cure a painful dolphin disease, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Sticking with that first part, I think they were saying sentience is a spectrum. Killing a chicken is not equivalent to killing a dolphin.
Sure, just like killing a person with cognitive disabilities, it would be probably a different experience for them than if you were to kill someone with higher cognitive abilities. But doesn't mean we can just go willy-nilly, killing people. I don't know what it's like to be a chicken. I don't know what it's like to be a dolphin. I'm sure they both experience pain in a way that evolution has, given them everyone experiences pain in the way that they're supposed to experience pain in order to survive.
Gotcha. And next, thank you for your question from Lily R.O., who says, are you trying to force people to be vegan or just trying to convince? Are you able to work with those who aren't vegan but want better living conditions for farm animals? I think that's maybe the biggest emphasis they're asking.
You can't force veganism on anybody. I mean, this is not something, it doesn't make sense. People go vegan because they want to, because they've realized that they can no longer contribute to the suffering and exploitation of animals. And as far as the second part of the question.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, they're advocating for animal welfare, and we're advocating for animals to be treated with basically the same respect and dignity that we treat cats and dogs and other animals that we don't breed into existence just to kill them.
Gotcha. And thanks for your question from Maynard Save says, what are your thoughts on carnivorous plants?
Oh, like Venus flytraps?
Yes.
Yeah.
Same as our thoughts on carnivorous animals. I mean, their morality is not our morality. So
If plants have morality.
if plants are even sentient, which according to our scientific knowledge, they're not. So
They might be intelligent, but I don't know about sentience.
Thank you. And then logical, plausible, probable. Thanks for your statements. And don't forget Smokey's after show as well tonight. So I guess, are you, Smokey, you had an after show at the same time as Standing for Truth's debate?
I don't think so. I'm doing it right after this.
You can have
right
two tabs open, folks. You can watch both. Earl of Sandwich, thanks for your question statement. Said, plants do not try to keep living when I come for them, minus poison, etc. There is no will in a vegetable. Don't need to kill the plant anyway to eat it.
What?
uh,
I don't
Well,
know about a
he's-
carrot. I think you kind of have to kill a carrot.
A carrot
Yeah.
doesn't run for its life.
he's right. Plants are planted in place. They haven't evolved the ability to move.
Gotcha.
I don't know what the question is.
It was a troll.
It's a statement.
Earl of Sandwich, are you trolling us? Okay, Roy Lindsay, thanks for your question. Said, Godless looks like Sandra Bullock. This is not an insult. Wow, that's quite the compliment.
Oh, Sandra Bullock looks pretty old.
Oh, jeez, man.
A young Sandra
Couldn't just
Bullock.
take
Maybe
it and say
Yeah,
thanks.
maybe he didn't have enough characters, Godless.
Google image the picture of her with no makeup on.
She's a pretty lady. All right,
You're
Ryan
talking
Gordon.
about like Speed era Sandra Bullock, I think, right?
Yeah, I always had the hots for Sandra Bullock. That's all gravy.
Okay, that's gross. Okay, so Ryan Gordon, just kidding, Smokey. All right, Ryan Gordon, thanks for your super chat. Says, speak to a hunter if you want to understand the euphemism. I'm trying to understand. Oh, I think they maybe meant the euphemism of like harvesting animals. I don't know if that's what they
Maybe
meant.
the deers. Maybe it was bringing back to the deer situation.
But what was the yeah, like
It
euphemism?
was like if you didn't actually
Harvest.
hunt deers, they would go extinct in a few generations.
I thought he was talking about the euphemism of using the word harvest instead of kill.
Oh, maybe. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm confused.
Gotcha. And Captain Gingy, thanks for your super chat, says, what if working people can't afford a vegan diet? Is that morally reprehensible? The economy kind of forces people into a certain diet.
Well, first of all, let's re-clarify the meaning of the word vegan as it pertains to diet. There isn't such a thing as vegan diet, just like you wouldn't say a feminist diet. You know what I mean? Veganism is different from plant-based. But a plant-based diet is one of the most affordable diets on the planet. I mean,
Yeah.
most fruits and vegetables, whole grains, they're
Like the cheapest
pennies.
foods in the store, like rice, beans, oats, onions, legumes,
practically throwing
lentils,
them out.
carrots, greens. Those are vegan too. We're not just talking about
The
beyond
process,
burgers.
anything processed, whether it's vegan or not vegan, will always be more expensive.
Gotcha, thank you. And then, only laughing because Godless Girl just staring into the camera. Love you, Godless Girl. All right. Next up, Lily, was it Lily RO? Did we read this? Let's see. No, we didn't. Said, Gigi, thanks, Godless Girl, for not losing your poop tonight. I really liked your points. P.S. James is hot. Thank you so much. I always tell people, I think that's Earl the Postman. He's like 65. He goes by Lily RO, but I'll take what I can get. That says, PSS, V do you, but heads with those who aren't vegan but want better life for animals. I think they're saying something to the... do you know what they're saying?
Say that one more time.
Yeah, they said PSS V do, so like V the letter, do you. Oh, I think they're saying vegans do you, like be yourselves, but heads with those who aren't vegan but want better life for animals. I think they're saying like, but I'm...
You do you, but let people who want just better lives for animals be. I mean, again, replace the victim. Like if you're telling anyone fighting for justice for a victim, you do you. You let everybody else. Let me abuse my husband. You do, or what is it? the example
you commit domestic abuse if you want to. I'm not going to, but I'm not going to force it on you. Like when there's a victim involved, it's not a personal choice. Like deciding what color shirt to wear, that's a personal choice. But just saying to someone like you do you could use that for any justice movement, and most people would disagree with it in every context except for the animal context. So it's inconsistent.
Appreciate it. And Bartos Diagos said, vegans think too much with their feelings. But James, you're neat. I appreciate the compliment. However, I don't know if Anna and Brian would agree with you. So Anna and Brian, Bartos Diagos says vegans think too much with their feelings. Is this the case?
What's wrong with feelings?
Yeah,
I don't know why feelings are like so,
You could say you anti-slavery supporters think too much with your feelings. Like, why do you care? It's like, what's wrong with we are human, we have feelings.
It's part of the way we've it's part of everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships and societies, and so
you got it. Thank you. And we got just a couple more questions. We're going to try to close her down, folks, with the Q&A. We're going to close the intake. Thank you for all of your questions. Spark344, thanks for your patience. I almost missed this. They said, statement for Godless Girl, there's the entire Paralympics. Animals/humans can live fulfilling lives without a limb or four.
I just would euthanize an animal if it's like stuck sitting in the same spot all day. I think it's feeling stressed.
Gotcha. Spart34, thanks for your other Patreon question for this time for. See, they had asked, is the eating of meat in and of itself immoral? Anna and Brian, let's see, is the eating of meat in and of itself... Oh, okay, this is kind of getting into that point one of the other super chats was getting at.
Yeah, I think they're leading down the rabbit hole of if I magically find a fresh corpse somewhere in the woods and eat it, I'm technically eating meat, but is it immoral? Yes, Kate would disagree. It's just not a very useful line of argumentation. They're saying, like, could we come up with a hypothetical situation where the act of eating meat in and of itself causes no harm? Sure. You could come up with a very specific...
lab-grown meat.
Yeah, lab-grown meat. You're eating real meat, no suffering. So, I mean, it just doesn't really apply to the real world application of, like, how people eat. People go to McDonald's. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. They go to restaurants, they go to the grocery store.
I see what you're saying. And Space Monkey, thanks for your question, said, is it better for cows to have the chance to live but have a rough day at the slaughterhouse at the age of 4, or to never live at all?
I think never live at all.
Well, is that the choice that we're presented with?
Yeah, it's either never exist or exist suffering at the slaughterhouse.
Yeah, I mean, we could put a human into those same shoes. Would you rather?
Yeah, I would think I'm an anti-natalist. I think it would be better to never exist. I mean, if you don't exist, not existing can't be bad for you, but suffering in a slaughterhouse is bad for you.
You're an anti-natalist? We've never known this whole time?
Passionate anti-natalist. Why would you want to take a bunch of cells and turn it into a sentient being that suffers? Are you sick?
Wow. You know, you and Tom Jump have more in common than you think.
Oh, I would love to be on a team with Tom Jump.
Well, we may do that. Next, thanks for your Lily Arlo.
Please do that, James.
Huh?
We'll watch it.
Please do that.
That would be something. Yeah, that would be like tomorrow's debate. You guys like temporarily set aside your differences to partner up for your common cause.
Oh, I don't care. I don't have any differences with him. We're both atheists too. I would debate two theists.
What if like
Venom and Spider-Man teaming up to fight Carnage? You know what I mean?
So true. And next, Lily R.O. clarified her super chat. I think I accidentally butchered it. She said, so if there was an organized protest to get chickens out of cages, would you not try to help, or would you instead say, like, I'm not with those people, they don't go far enough?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, realistically, we're talking about incrementalism here. Like, for example, the Proposition 2 that was passed back in, I forget what year, I think it was spearheaded by Arnold Schwarzenegger, that called for cage-free hens. You know, are we going to not vote on that ballot, or are we going to vote for cage-free? Of course we're going to vote, because we understand that nothing's going to happen overnight, and these are the steps that we need to take to get to that point. So if you're talking about what's the other, abolitionists, so at heart we are abolitionists, but in practice we understand that we need to be incrementalists.
Yeah, it's the same with like banning fur. Like, one could argue like, well, unless fur is banned worldwide, we're not going to vote on the California fur ban. I mean, that's illogical. If your goal is to help sentient beings not be murdered for their fur, that would be an illogical step.
Gotcha. And then this is the last, I think, this is the last question that we had that came in. Oh, I did miss this one. So the knowing guy asked Smokey and Godless Girl, if lab-grown meat was made, would you stop eating animal meat?
Probably.
It would depend on if it tasted like meat and it was readily available. Yeah, I guess so. One of the biggest deterrents for me is also the how like unavailable vegan food, the vegan options are at restaurants and stuff. Because I eat out. Most of my food I eat out.
That'll change over time. I mean, the demand is growing, and the more people ask for it, the more options will be presented.
Oh yeah, it already has. Like, look at fast food now. Even McDonald's is going to have vegan soon.
Yeah.
I probably could be swayed, but much like GMOs or genetically modified, I'd probably be a little concerned with whatever process they're using to create this lab meat, and if there was any negative byproducts from consuming it. That's the only real objection I could probably think of off the top of my head.
But you know why those Impossible Whoppers at Burger King taste so good? Is because they're soaked in real meat juice on the broiler.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, I have no idea.
Or it could be all of the herbs and spices that they've seasoned the patty with. Also known as vegan food, by the way, herbs and spices.
Really interesting, and want to say thanks so much, folks. It has been a true pleasure. I want to remind you, I put the links of our guests in the description so you can hear plenty more where that came from tonight. And just want to say thanks so much to our guests, Anna, Brian, Smokey, and none other than Godless Girl. Thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. It's been a true pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you all, and thank you for having this conversation with us.
Yes.
Definitely.
Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys.
Exciting. I loved it. And so with that, folks, we hope we see you tomorrow night for what may cause the internet to melt down, folks. I am excited for it. It should be wild. And so with that, we hope you have a great rest of your night. Hit that like on the way out if you enjoyed listening to tonight's debate. I know I did. So yes, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Thanks, mods. Mods, by the way, one quick thing, housekeeping type thing. Tomorrow might be insane, so please remember, any sort of hate speech, no warnings. That's the only thing we don't give any warnings for. Just delete them, ban them, and we just wipe them off the channel, and then like a bug off the windshield. Then as well, that we should be good. But tomorrow I won't be able to pay as much attention to the live chat. So appreciate you, mods, for all you do for real. And keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable, folks. Have a great night.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, James.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Smokey and Godless.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Take care. Have a good night.
Yeah.